benza sato samaya manu palaya benza sato teno pa tiskari no me bawa soto kayo me bawa soto chayo me bawa Anarato me bawa sarva siddhe me parayesa sarva karma susa me siddham shiyam kuru aha ho bangave sarva tata gata beza ma me beza beza bawa ma samaya sato.
So we will recite in English. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merits of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. I beseech the great Brajadara, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gampopa, Pakmodrupa, Lord Jigten Sungun, at the feet of the root guru, who possesses the three ways of kindness, and all the root gurus and spiritual masters of the lineage, the Idams and Dharma protectors. May your marvelous blessings permeate my mind.
Tongge tuje shajere zanjang yinjama duje ponjamba seje lombo dawe jibeka shaje jalbe shavla kubzan zan jagar benje pola gatenje pemalan tongko landen tongmi tata lona zimba kanonze orjer boje la kubzan sa hizan kolo Chira Junkurje and the Babu Tom Perlena Gerardin Bakon La Sanze Pekajur Rumboje Ganza Tuje Jungo Monday Hizang Bojadawa Tamjin Yamendro Gompen Sanza Rome Juje Purana Sanje Gonjang Ranzen Chugang Zondoze Lama Javla Kizan Doso Sinje Tamje Bochuzan Rola Sinje Labdos Chulamdon Rola Sinje Labdos Lantrava Seva Sinje Labdos Samala Tomata Hidele Hujatan Teni Tereng Aransu Ngati Ngondro Kenani Teni Tumong Ke Ngondro Lodon Namba Yaganani Teni Kondo Tamjun Hipa Kawata Teni Matapa Nishundune Tereng Kaps Papa Sumba Teni Lemde Kenani Mashubis Teni Tomar the Sama Ketini Kono Sancho Semji Simple Conetini Sino nouns.
Tashidele, everybody. And so, of the preliminary practices of the fivefold path of Mahamudra, we are speaking about now the common preliminaries, which are the four thoughts that turn the mind. And we already talked about the difficulty of finding a precious human body and impermanence. And so today we come to the third point, which is karma, cause and effect. And in the beginning, please all cultivate motivation of bodhicitta.
Tene tene chunyum bakabla tene nuju johnson se che yures nuju johnson se ate pangores nuju johnson se ndu tene tambo manyone pe nu khab pataw chen tene khab nu khab yabaina tene tinana chu karelo nang rogu marwas te tab maimba nu khasen se yapana yin se ne tene amcho ki tambo yangpo nyongores nu chu chu sampang se chu tambo nawe manyo tene khab taw chung nipa de tene yi la manzi shabdar taw chung tene ta chung nipa de nu de kha si cha nu de le shami na te na lo sama kare lo dina na de ga ma sham ma la sam bon ro yor was tene te ta mai pa tene amcho ki yapo nyo tene yi len zing go res sen la ya go res ta samba de tene nga ki chi ni pa kap la se chi ni pa kap la tene nu tu kin ta mai pa se nu tu kin se na pe na nu de la to yu na se yang na zo wa yu na tene tina na sama chu kare lo na nga su sa lo ma wa se tene ti sama te to nu de to de sama de sama zoba zon ro pe te ta mai ba ro wa pe na nga so chu ni de ta ku no ni do na ku no number ta bu go ni tene nga ge se mai ba nyo mu ba nam to ku no ni ba mai ba ro wa ku no nge te chu ni ba lob jong si an de pe na rang ge chi rani deo chi po yana chi nin ta nin da la so ba den de le sam ma tang ma ro o nge chun de ya sim chi tham ge ge chi de nge nin go sa ne ku no nam pa ta ba go res ti gon sing go res dan do chur de na dam bo chi ran yeng man do ya bu nyu 책 chu kare she de na ya bu nyu 대수 지랑게 뇽차디 드네야 드림바게 진로레 드림바게 마지 베체 지랑 토티나 디 로와 이르야 본쟁고 선냐고레스 드네다 추롭병 냠네신 꾸노 장마고레스 로와 마카바 장보리 응네 야포니 야포 냠네 지기 셈지 탐지 치도 삼 들으삼 땅고레스 동다데
When we listen to the Dharma, first we need to be free of what it is called three faults of the pot, like a vessel, that need to be abandoned. And so the first fault is that one shouldn't be like a vessel, like a pot that is turned upside down. If it's turned upside down, then whatever you pour into it won't go inside. So first of all, you need to be open, like an open vessel, and listen to the teachings well. So that's the first fault to be abandoned. And then secondly, you should not be like a pot that has no bottom. So even if the pot is not turned upside down, even if it is right, but if it has no bottom, then whatever you pour into it, whatever food you pour into it, won't stay inside. So it will all go outside on the bottom again. So also you shouldn't listen like that. So when you listen to the teachings, then you also must really hold onto them in your mind. So you have to keep them in your mind. And then the third fault when you're listening to the Dharma is to not be like a vessel that is a pot that is filled with like poison or some kind of filthy, dirty substance. Because if the vessel is dirty or poisonous, then even though you pour food in it, you can't eat it. So don't be like this like filthy pot. Which means that when you listen to the Dharma teachings, then you should have a pure motivation without a distracted mind. without a negative thought or an afflicted mind, without a negative intention. So you think that today when I'm listening to the Dharma, when I'm studying the Dharma, I'm not doing that for my own happiness, for my own reputation and so on. But I'm listening to the Dharma in order to be able to benefit all sentient beings. So you should cultivate such a pure motivation when listening to the Dharma. And so in brief, do not be distracted when you listen to the Dharma, and listen to the words well. And then also hold on to these words, retain them. So don't forget about the teachings again. For example, you can take notes. Basically, you have to keep those words that you learn. And so do so then with a completely clean, pure motivation, thinking that today I'm very fortunate that I'm able to listen to the Dharma teachings. I must practice the Dharma well, and I'm doing it for the sake of all sentient beings.
Ngarang pe tambo ni chula chu se te ki chimbo yimba te ha kona tini ngagi danang ta donyor yorwas danang ta donyor sena ni hyuk chimbo mina chutang lu chudala de pasam chutang ya pore ta ngaya tes le zambo yimba ta res yina ya pinchira thogo yo mane te endu tangara lu chudata de na tini semsro de yangma de bachi 개침보 인지 미팅 했지 시고도 로와 가래 라고도 로와 통다 가래 시티 대상은 니빠도 땅 드니 일은지나 드니 루추달레 데요레 세마 추달레요레 드니 돈다 드레하 마오나 가래 갈티스치 따빠는 뇽도 드니 가래 갈하 골차요레스 드니 가나 지다 많이 외치로와 지당에 롭존체에 혼로 롭존체 로왕에 오 사자 침봉에 롭인로와 tene nga bita chu mangpo lobjon sen samsan ro nga su yo re te ina ya ngune chi tongna ro chi thon shira ha ko yo mare kare de ha maur sena chu hie pa kala ya po tambo nyi yo mare tene nyi sa de ya tambo yi le ya po jing ke yo mare ta te ge tine tine ma shira kantar ha maur chan ro yo res ten te ta na yin ba ya po nyu yang se nyu tene nga ka se ha ko ta
So that in this way, if you really understand that the Dharma I'm listening to is so important, then you will also listen to the Dharma with a pure perception and an interest in the teachings. Otherwise, I mean, you might have some devotion, which is already excellent, and the fact that you have faith and devotion to the teachings is a sign that you have positive karma, but that alone also will not really help you so much. So when you listen, be without distraction and really think that I have to understand this. What is he saying? What is this about? So really try to stay there with the mind, keep it in mind. And in that way, not only your body, but also your mind is with the Dharma teachings. Otherwise, so you won't really get a good understanding if you don't listen well. So if you listen carefully and listen well, then gradually you will gain a good understanding. Otherwise, you might think that, oh, I know the Ngondro, or I have listened to so many Dharma teachings, I know Mahamudra, I know a lot of teachings. So we might think that, but then still we don't really understand the meaning. And so that is because in the beginning you didn't listen well, you didn't keep the teaching in mind. And then what happens is that you don't really understand the meaning. So I'm not like that, but really listen carefully and think about it again and again, and really look at what is being said as much as you can. And in that way, your understanding of the Dharma will improve.
Sumba tetar mata ching chotana tatu gedik ke le chatar sapa teni rang ke nampar shibe jisen rang de Deto Kindrevan Nipan Yon Jur Sir Song. Ta Katanga so Kong to Shipatini, Tambong so Tini, Tamjur Niparkawa, Tamju Jimbilun Poche, Pe Tambu Chudriality, Maran Kawazambo, but the Militobio is. Tini te topo kabla, tini Maran give a Madripayina. Tene pe lower de tene konjipu chichi indi tene matapa yona ngaso tene pe kantan cho yongo yores tan cho yongo kabla tene le jumde ke jis nampar shiba te le jumde ke jis ndang ro yore songo yore ta te ngana so ta namba ke ko tumo main ba ke tumo main pe chechu de nanda tumo main pe nenga ta nenga chimboji chando yore le jumde se yate Pena ngaranzu chi le jumde yen de tini ngarang chi jewa ngama data ke lu jewa sma tinga de ha ko yung do as jewa nganzu sen ya le jumde so ha ma na pena ngaranzu yang jewa sma yu mari samya ngaranzu chepan thala long ro tende yung do as o data lu ndri mi jewa sma yu mari samya ta nangba ki mari jewa sma yu res ro le karesan tijis le ngres te namba chichuri chichuri ngupo ne chori ngupo ne lok res tene ya kai dare de chepan thani tene chepan thal no man was tene ya khashe ke penna ngarang chu chi dewa ta dunga sama khla ge zon ro yo ba ro pe ta pan thab zon sin penna che zo golo ta ta sipo la so ba ke tene ta koncho ge zon ro yo re sa ya ten chi yong go yo was namba te mares chirang pe chirang tere yapo chi chungko yo na ya chirang yapo kandri chi chunga ina ya te tsama chirang separes chirang leg separes o ta chirang la dupo kandri chi yongo yo na ya te chirang separes yin siki ke se yo mars te chirang separ chirang legendary pares ta tila namba ka ta lende se tene tumo mai pa chechu chagi res tumo mai pa chechu la tumo mai pa nengari tene ta mag lende ta ha kwai na tene tene mag ta dedo dewa nduku yo na tene dewa ja ngarang la pala yori dongan duku mina dongar paya ngarang tablang ngarang la yores lende ha kwai na
Last week we talked about the difficulty of finding a precious human body first before. So we have recognized that now I have this precious human body, which is so difficult to find. And now I have the fortune to be able to practice the Dharma. And however, even though we have now obtained this body, this opportunity, also it is impermanent. It is subject to disintegration at any time. We're going to die. And then when we die, the consciousness follows the karma accumulated. And so the teachings on karma are really a special quality of the Buddha's teachings. And so the Buddhist teachings teach that it's not just this life, but there were many previous lives and there will be future lives. When one doesn't understand past and future lives, one doesn't understand karma, then one may think that there is no next life. And so nothing exists. And then one falls into the extreme of nihilism. You think that it's just now only this life. But Buddhism teaches that it's not just this life, but there is also future lives to come. And that's a special quality of the Buddhist view. And it also corresponds to reality. And when we see that, we do not fall into the extreme of nihilism. And then there's the other extreme of eternalism, which is that some people think that all my happiness and suffering is all created by some kind of God or like a deity, like a creator God and so on, the three jewels, somebody creates it for me. And Buddhism says that this is not the case. For example, whatever happiness you experience today, it's all something that you have created yourself with your own karma. And whatever negative thing happens to you is also created by yourself. And no one else at all did it to you. It's your own karma. And that teaching really is a special quality of the Buddhist view. And it's also the most crucial, the most important point of the Buddhist teachings. Because if you want to be happy, then you must know that happiness is in your own hands. It's your own karma, your own action. And if you do not want to experience suffering, then you have to create actions to abandon suffering, to avoid suffering. So in this way, you should develop trust in karma.
다라 공도 ngaran so teni tamjor ji ni par ka melin do yang ko lel tini ngaran so tara lulang yori maglu pe tina yin ro ro simji tamji leg lulang de pares pe na ngaran so tara melu top yang lower njig ne mata pa rang gi re se te ko leg tini mata pa chan ro yores le yo pa le tini ko njorwa chin chane tini mata pa nang ro yore nona changma ko le khona le tini yong go yore sitan dona.
And so also the fact that we have obtained a precious human body with all the freedoms and fortunes is also because of karma. And any body that you take in the 6 realms of samsara is because of karma. And even though you have now found this precious human body, it also disintegrates momentarily. Its nature is impermanent, so we're going to die. And that's also because of karma. It's because of karma that things change and that things are impermanent. So everything that happens is because of karma.
Shindu me jes ndungdu yo na ya ko le ke ndok chi yo ma da.
We can't say that I don't want to die, I want to stay a little bit longer. We can't manipulate karma that way.
Oh yeah, ta le jimde sambala ya sumdes tela tini nasi tela kwan sum yores mgevele ta gevele na ngusong te nam tin reben nam ya so ta mayo le nre ta reben mi pa chur samosi ta de le jimde tela sum de kare do sina teni mgevele ta teni gevele ta mayo le sine teni sum yong dos.
And so then for karma, there's a threefold division. There's 3 kinds of karma. There's the non-virtuous karma, then there's the virtuous karma, and then there's the unmoving karma.
Tela tambo mgeva le chenes sochu mazin lendo ba loba yente luch sum da zong chama tsanga an char tsup de nga gi ya tanam sin no se lokpa tawa de yi ji sum tang te tambo mgeva chetri do.
So then first there's the negative karma, the non-virtuous karma, and that consists of the 10 non-virtues, which is killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, telling lies, divisive speech, idle talk, harsh speech, and covetousness, harmful thoughts, and wrong views.
어야 다때 가는서 니빠다 다 창마게 망 요시기 먹게와 쪄 시바도 파치 하고 요래 상도 가지 하 고민은 먹게와 쪄도 하 콜치거 인지민지 잠깐 등한 로는도 오 먹게와 쪄 가리리스나 오 리지고는 숨 마고는 예 이지고는 숨스 다 가리리스나 오 리지고는 소주바 마진발랑 마창와 주바 숨 마고는 좀 참아 특수 나차데 예 이지고는 남센 누센 로파 데스 티게 데 디슨데레스 돈페초도 티막 아니 니고스 이르 니고스데
So most of you are probably familiar with 10 non-virtuous actions, but if not, then you should make yourself familiar with them and memorize them each. So when you have memorized them, then you can say, so what are the 10 non-virtues? And then you know, so there is 3 of the body, 4 of the speech, and 3 of the mind. And what are they? So the 3 of the body are killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. And the 3 of the speech are telling lies, divisive speech, idle talk, and harsh speech. And the 3 of the mind are covetousness, harmful thought, and wrong views. So it's important that you remember them, that you memorize them.
다 소주바스 데 심진 다 뭐인데 심지 든조 속차 간디지에는 소제나 고 속주 니바 중거요 다 소주야 때라 양랑기지 송도 유베세 야바탄 양 마시바세 야바 니바라 하모선세 야바 년데 니바 체청 요레마도 양 소제리 니바데 용거요레스
So the first one is killing, and that refers to any sentient being, whether it's a human being or an animal, whichever being. And so when you take the life of another being, then you have the fault of having taken life, having killed. And there can be a slight difference between now actually intentionally killing, and sometimes we kill without knowing it. And there is a difference in the severity of the negative karma, but still it is a fault. In either way, it is a fault.
양 라니게 소 마체 베체 나 양소 주지나 양 ngal ni pa de res ka khin ngana ta che 심지 답변은 독당 로 담번 담을 여러 나 강반나 요양도 다도 제고나 드레랑게 수랑 뜻 렘델 사고 등하게 마세베지 인라 세야 대체나 니바 용 요레스 나다레스
So, and even if you don't kill the being yourself, even if you make somebody else kill them, you still have the fault. For example, even if it's a little animal like a mosquito or some other kind of insect that comes into your house, even if you don't actually kill them yourself, if you make others kill them, and you still have the fault of killing.
마진 발림바 세야 되더니 양증아 까마자야 양은 띵포신 초야 양만은 거고 땅야 다 탑신 라밍 거니 인지 저널라와 이나 다들라야 거 마진 발람이 니바 포비여레스 다 이거지도 좀 거고 간리직 된 라와 이나 거 마진 발람 바레 니바 여레스
And then exorcisms.
네, 양 예나 양 거고 땅진이 타가 라야 타비체나 지바레스.
And so then there is stealing, and so whichever way it happens, whether you actually steal something or like in a hidden way, or if you like rob someone forcefully, or if you cheat someone, but whichever way you try to get to other people's things, you have the fault. So if you lie to them or try to cheat them, or if you make other people cheat them to get something, then you still have the fault of stealing. It's all the same.
Tene yang lokpar yinpa, lupe lokpar yinpa sendu, soso yang choga ta kimi dad zong de bata, choga kimi yunjo, la tene loyan sena loyan chaka yores. Yang tena chahwa ta zuma, tene soso ke tene pa ta ma, soso punchi tutso loyan, tene chapa chena ko loyan mrogo yores.
Then there is sexual misconduct, and that refers to going with becoming like sexually involved with someone who is already taken, who already has a husband or a wife, basically anyone who is already taken, and or you're with somebody that is already taken. So whether you're taking yourself or somebody is already taken, or when you engage in these relations with an ordained, a monk or a nun, or your parents, or you develop this desire for your parents or other like close family members.
Ta te luji go do pa lo pa yi ba de luji som dans teni zun se ya te nga gi go ne ta nga gi yo do te nan zun se na ta ma yin pa lo zun la ya yo ba ta zun chen bo yo re zun chung chung yo re zun chen bo pen na ta mo se ya chen cho ya ta zun chen bo la ya ta zun chung chung ya ze mo pa ro ta ya tes tes ya 동다 충충 도서라 양 존라야 다도 존 라므라 여러와스 다도 존도데나 딤바 마임바 라야 도서 존레스.
So these are the 3 non-virtues of the body, and then there are 4 non-virtues of the speech, of which the first one is telling lies. And there's different kinds of lies. There's bigger lies and smaller lies. So a big lie is, for example, if you really tell somebody like a lie to in order to kill them or somebody, or steal something from them. And then there is the smaller lies that could be just like a joke, or just saying something that is meaningless, really. It's all kinds of different lies, but basically it means to not tell the truth.
Chama siate tene yang parts me in chia ba tumbo yo na ma tumbo zo ya tene ya ma chi ke ja chi le she de ya ro ba donda tu shin ma bu jang ro ya ta te pe ni pa chim bo yo res pe na che pama ta inseng pama paru le yang chama chi ya yang so so ge chi punchi paru le yang chama chi ya yang so so ge chi topo tomo paru la pasa chama chia yin chia tene yang so so chudo ta tene lama ta loma pa la tene pasa yin chia chama chia ta te tamji tene be ni pa chimbo yo res.
And then there is a divisive speech, which is to stir up problems between people, and to cause like a kind of a rift between them, to make people who are harmonious not be harmonious. You can do that, for example, by saying all kinds of things, so that stirs up problems between people. And so divisive speech that divides people, that is an extremely great fault. For example, it happens between your saying some Dharma friends, or between the guru and the disciples and so on. So all of these are dividing and stirring up problems between people. So that is called slander or divisive speech.
다 아래에서는 마참 대화 단 힙데 참통 거 여러 와시 참아대 고 얘는 되니 참아세서 되니 만통 버전 만통 버전 사도 빼나 마창게 얘나 마창데 만통 버전 그래 되니 마창데 기본 밀전으로 빼디나기 단 초바이나 초바 탐지 야뭐 쪄요난다 자요난다 되니 되는 참아세 만통 버전 그러 야 소소 분치 님생 바로 참아서 근데 또 좀 많통도서 그때서 참마게 되지 참마 미리서 근데 참마도 남주 근데 참마 잡잡지 나도 기자 해들어 나는 기자 해디 디게자 되게 인라 베 야마만 통바 존도 서레 근데 삼 땅 기자 해거래스 남주 가시 나는 기자 해야 되게 인만 통바 존도 요나 기자 되게 고 말이스
And so the reason why this is a great fall is because everybody wants to everybody wants to be happy and experience peace. And so then when you come along and you engage in conversations that divide people, that makes them be unharmonious with each other, then you're creating unhappiness for them. For example, in your family, if you say something that causes them to not get along with each other, then they become unhappy. Or if it is in a community, in a group, if you say various things that divide people, then they can't be getting along. Or if it happens between friends or other family members, basically divisive speech causes unhappiness for others. So it's very important to be really careful about that all the time, especially now when you talk, when you say something, you should really first ask yourself, what I'm about to say is going to possibly cause other people to not get along, really make them be unharmonious. And so think about that before you say something. And if you find that this could possibly make them divide them, make them be unharmonious, then it's better not to say that.
Then 직접 지나 빼나 책 뭘 포야 그리고 책 말합 책 뭘 포야 뭘 그야 민족 책 던저더니 남나 빼 뭐 팔 셈나 마치 비조유디 근데 직접 올라와요 말이스 근데 남중 안에 깨자 해야 되니 책 냠볼라 깨자 하장 깨 자침 버지 빼는 안에 갑동 땅대 받라고 많이 봐 책양 냠보 자양 냠보 지라버레스 들 합part 소소게 파마 로침보 로침보도 소도 인지 민지 되니 깨자 갈래시고 섭섭지 깨전 잠보시고 양부 중요도 저랑 깨전 잠보시고 그래서 저 갑동치야 말이스 라버트 파타 마 로겐고 차르와 로겐고 차드니 코란서 암초 약고요 말에 암초 약고 메드 되니 코즈 람상 고메 되니 코즈 좋아야 양조 좋아 되게 나 롱라 되니 빼 깨자 빼 책 말합라 빼 깨자 깨 책 빼 자 혁침볼라 된지는 되니 빼 코란서 셈 팜루 그래 강게세에 셈 중중무세요 말에 람상 코란서 팜구리 되는데 되니 또 솔라 인지 미지 깨자 잠보시 코란서 나한테 주바공 루루 시키자 야포시 그래스 대 참아 개와는 너는
Then there is harsh speech. So that is anything that you say that makes other people feel like that affects them negatively, makes them feel sad. Anything that maybe it's something that is unkind, when you say something unkind to them or disrespectful, whatever you say that makes them feel upset. so we definitely should not speak in this way. When you speak to others, then we have to speak to them gently and not raise your voice, so you don't yell at them, especially when it comes to your parents and the older people. We have to be very kind to them in our speech and speak to them very gently, very softly. Without yelling at them, without raising our voice. Especially our older parents, the older people, they can't hear so well. So when you say something, they might not understand that right away. And so then they might ask you for clarification again and again. And then maybe you get angry about that because they just don't understand it. And then maybe you say very unkind and you raise your voice and yell at them. And then that makes them feel sad. Especially older people are quite sensitive to that. They really get upset very quickly because they are very sensitive. So you have to be very gentle with them when you talk to them, and be patient and to speak to them in a gentle, relaxed way. And all of that talk, the kind way of talking, that is virtue.
Te nga gi kia ta tini yi ji go ne tini napsen no se lokpar ta wa te napsen se na ta chi yin la pam jo jono pe ya po yo na te rang la thum du ro sem na nga la go du sam ne ro te khandi chi na nga la ya thop sa ri sam ne den je sam ta de napsen se ya te nu sem se ya te tini yin bal du po ri na ga 야보리는 마가와 지르와 유인발 두보지리나 사페나 조보니 pen 참보요나 코라니 만참바이나 삼 늦지 총사와 람라 야보 로나 오 코트 사와 람라 마소나 삼 르와 오 메인바지 주보 데탕페 야보요나 코 마데바 차나 삼다 든지 삼로 땅데 누셈세 데페 마시기 니바치모리 나나 수나 페냠 거여레스 든지 삼로 땅데나 no sempre ngak su na pe nyam gres
Ngangkiel ngatsumara.
mare napsen no sen lokpar tawa se tere
Mari ngaki me ke va jena la ngangkiel.
oh nganchar che so la ma so mare nganchar te namju ta donda he da min jo ke ja ta mangbo he tisu thola ta rwa tel nganchar la go ta ke jan da ma da he ne zambal den ki to ta ne ke ja he de ta tisu ta de nganchar mo yin ba donda ke ja mangbo he de ngana le ka den de wa kan ya mi na ya tin ke ja mangbo donda min jo he de tel nganchar la go ta
And then the fourth one is idle talk, which is basically meaningless speech. It is just gossip or a kind of a waste of time, just saying all kinds of things that have no point really. Speaking about the world and speaking about other people that actually maybe doesn't concern myself. So basically it's meaningless talk. And so then, so these are the four non-virtues of the speech. And then there's three non-virtues of the mind. It's covetousness, harmful thought, and wrong views. And so covetousness is a desire to get what other people have. So just thinking that I wish I had that. And then harmful thought is extremely bad. So it is basically to wish when other people are doing well, then you wish that they are not doing so well. So when you're doing well, you don't like that. Or for example, when two friends are getting along, then you would, if you secretly think that, oh, I wish that they wouldn't get along. Or if someone's business also is really successful and you feel that, oh, I wish they wouldn't be so successful. Or if somebody is healthy and you wish that, I wish they wouldn't be so healthy. So if that's extremely negative, extremely grave fault is to wish harm on others, because that's really what destroys your marriage.
lokpa tawa seyate ngaran so tara le jimde le yichimi pateri lokpa tawa le jimde le yichimi ya konjo sumna te pami teni kiwa ngapsa le yichimi te tawa teni lokpa tawa seyate nguyu ne cha ha ma wa chene ko nor so te jimde ha ma wa chene teni jimde le lokpa tawa res ngaki ma shi te dimba mari sam teni dimba mari sam teni lokpa chiyo res.
And then there is a wrong view, and that means not to trust in karma and to have no faith in the three jewels. Do not trust in past and future lives, reincarnation. So it means to not know, not believe in how things really are. So therefore it's a misunderstanding of reality. So when one doesn't understand, when one doesn't believe in karma, because that's how things are, if one doesn't believe in karma, that's a wrong view. And also it means to deny it, to say that it isn't true, it doesn't exist. So that is holding wrong views.
Oh yeah, that tawe teni magiwa che yabatela teni ndrewe yete ndrewe yores ndrewe yete rapa goni shigota rapa goni shena ndrewe yes ndrewe ye khare sena jarwan dewe number min pendewe jumthun chendewe wang kendewe stati yete yores te rapa goni shigota.
And so then when these negative actions are committed, there are 4 ways in which they ripen for results. The first one is the result of separation. Then there is the result of full maturation, and then there is the result that corresponds to the cause, and then there is the dominating result.
Dela tambo travel deva sayate karishi agosina magi cho drug deva ina ta travel deva se china deva ta trawa risita china magi drug deni na deva yo mare se ta deva le chat savare is dela travel devas.
Then so the first one is the result of separation, which means that when you have committed any of the 10 non-virtuous actions, then you are separating yourself from happiness. So therefore, the result of separation.
Nami jindeva ne ni song to tongan juro song. Ta chira mage che de pa te ke number mi pa te chira kawa chi yore sena. Tene chira ni song ne chen do yore ni song nyarwa yeta tundro. Ta tele chi 삽 침보 전에 되는 야와 텔레테스 양아 전에 든 여다 든로 든지 전에 지요레스 남민게 되어.
And then the second is the result of full maturation, which means to take birth in the 3 lower realms of the hell realms, the hungry spirits, and the animals. And also if the action has been extremely severe, powerful, then one takes birth in hell. Then if it's a kind of average or medium strength, then one takes birth as a hungry spirit, and the least strength leads to birth as an animal.
Da samba de jumthun samba tela dini deva samba jumthun tela dini kola nasi nindo sipa jumthun da nyunga jumthun se.
So then third is the result corresponding to the cause, and that is twofold. There is the activity corresponding to the cause and the experience corresponding to the cause.
Ate karisongu yore senas ta chira naming ke chira nisong to ne tene nam ki chira nisong le zone ya hunju sunam timbal tene ya milutop na sigota milutop yonga inas Tati Jumtun the Chirana Yores, Sipa Jumtu, Nua Jumtu. Sipa Jumtun the Carreris and us. Ta Muma Payanas, Pena, Chiran Muma, Soku, Saint Dunichina. Tene Taha Lundolaya, Tene Soku Sia. Dona, Simjin Yena, Sevachia. No Sechia. Muma Chiva Muma Care, Magil Lesana, Tene Taha Chindu you depa. Tatil Sipa Jimtons.
And so once the karma of birth in the lower realms has been completed, then as a result of some slight virtue merit, even if you're born in the human world, you will experience then the result corresponding to the cause. And so the activity corresponding to the cause is, for example, if the cause is having killed, then your activity will correspond to that cause, meaning that in this life again, you will kill and you will do things that you will be violent against others. So basically, whatever karma you have done in previous lives, you want to do it again in this life.
Pena Sipa Jumtos and the China Chiva Hama China Kuma Jaya Lagao Yupa. Yana Zonta Chama Chia Lagao Yupa. Or Yana Chira Yisimjin Yena no se no sem chaya. Tachiwa Homa let and the Gao Chindunya Yena Tinita Lundalaya, the so you resgota. Then the tennis social tapis in social Nyomumba Yoro. Nyomumba Sando, oh, Narampe Chado Choina. Oh, touch was a Chinachiva Huma and Chiran Chado Sigayuba. The new one you don't say at here. Oh, there's a Zoom Lavia Gauyona, young Mumat and Devaya. Then another Sena Lasso, but the society called Jivan Humat and Devai, Huma Legatara Sipa Junto say at the Devaya. Now, Mahika Mandawa, she do, Shika Mandawa Manda, Makaki Hedancho, Kashin Chatocho, Kashin and Duchacho, Roa. Kashin Simba and a map so. Do that so Jivan Hama June the Jures. Jivan Hama China Sipa Jim to think Huma Jivan Homa and the Jedi, then the Tara Little Lion, the June the Jures. Tell Sipa Jintunes. Didn't Arangalatani, didn't carry the town and old. Pay not no same ship to something, Joatan or Mato, paying his own hand or rest.
So, for example, in a previous life, if you had a tendency to steal other people's things, then you will again kind of have a tendency to do that in this life. Or there are some people who just like to tell lies or like to gossip and divide people, or there's others who have a lot of negative thoughts of harming others in their minds. And that's because in a previous life, that's what they did. And now they have that same tendency. So when you look into your mind and you find a certain kind of affliction, then it's certain that this is because you have a tendency toward that from previous lives. For example, you might be very jealous and so on, or you might like to tell a little lie here and there. And that's because of a connection in a previous life. Or if you're really stingy or greedy, it's because of a tendency in a previous life. And we say that people have different personalities, different characters, and that's because of that, this result corresponding to the cause. So that's why there's some people who are more angry and others who are more jealous, and then others who have more desire and so on, or some are more kind of rude people. And all of that is because we have this continuum, this connection to a previous life, because we had a tendency toward that in previous lives. We did that in previous lives. So now we naturally, we do it in this life. So you should look at your own mind and see what it is for you. For example, if you find I have a lot of negative thoughts about others. I always want to harm them. Then I have to change that, because this is what will throw me into the lower realms.
다 nyungwa jimtung 토리스 지저른바 인데 세통 롱주퐁 춘타 인지 주마줄 자오 타자마 책무죠 다들 menyen between duba chen la de mo kong ju nu ba tawang ngi chu da da wa so da nyungwa jimtung sia de pena da sin ji yin ge so ju ya la ga de yo na tene chen de la tene che tung tung ma kha ki pe 카시지 아무 컨디션로야 카시페나 로가 쩌쫑아 로충충 정도야 도서도와 데이터버더니 야 카시 따바 내나사리도야 도서 뭐마지 yin yin 최소라 노체세야 딘데베 차데요레스 대용아 좀 토레스 멀리 톱장 세고 멀리 톱장
And then there's the experience corresponding to the cause. And so that is, even though you have found the precious human body, you have from previous lives. So, for example, if you have killed others in a previous life, then you will have a similar experience. For example, you experience an early death. Some people, for example, already die in their mother's wombs, and some die when they're very young children, like 5 or 10 or so years old. Or some other people are always sick. And so that is because in previous lives, we have caused harm towards the life of others. We've taken the lives of others. So then we experience that as a result, even though we have found the precious human body.
인지 저노 마자야 라소 바탄 도르데 세나 세데 베텔 티네 킹고 아준토나 티네 쳔들 베 롱주 베 저노 시다 미인데죠 총사와 시다 라라 문로 도르드나 탑 가드이나 판조 시다 미인데죠 차가요레스
And then the result of having stolen and taking the wealth of others in previous lives, and also having been greedy and stingy, and that as a result of that, one is in a state of poverty in this life. And or for example, if one has a business, it might not be ever successful. Basically, one always kind of ends up being impoverished.
로면 제바 대기 용화 준통을 때네 때네 센들 소소게 초와다 초마 유나야 때네 뭐 임바 감통 차대야 그러와 도소용 때네 소소지 조보 조모야 마토바 톱나야 효대야 그 연구요레스 때 용화 준토레스 톱야라 하장 까블레 커보고 요바 톱잖아 효로야 때 로염 세대 바틴 나네 용화 준통
And then there is the experience corresponding to the cause of sexual misconduct. And so as a result of having engaged in sexual misconduct in previous lives, then in this life, one finds it hard to find a spouse, a husband, or a wife. And even if one finds them, and one maybe doesn't really get along with them, or one loses them quickly. So one finds them, but then one loses them again, or one generally finds it difficult to find a partner and so on. So that's the result, the experience corresponding to the cause of sexual misconduct.
Teni tsendala sosoke pe chobo chomo kadu na kha cha de ya ngalan tumbo ke ma shida mi de jo ta chobo chomo shida mi yu na ya te jung bo mane ba chen teni kha chan ro yo ba teni rang ge chi ke ja hie na ya ma yin ba na wa le shida man ro wa che ke ja din ba hie ge yo na ya na wa ro man ro wa che am cho shida ma nyo wa che nyo ro ma he che tsik mu zung ba Tene ta de mani ba tu se de ta par nga mo yimbe ke ja marab lab de pa ro na cho na ji nga marab lab nu yo pa ten ke ja mambo ko ya to so yong ko yo re se ta zo chama tsu nga char se be ni nyong wa jun to de ni ko dos.
And so then also as a result of having spoken harsh words and also slandered others, then in this life one will not really like find harmonious relations, and even if one finds them, then it won't stay for long. Then one will always separate from them, or one will not have a lot of friends. And if one has them, then those friendships usually don't last that long. Or if you say something, even though it's the truth, nobody wants to listen to it. Nobody likes to listen to it, or other people always say really unkind and harsh things to you, and so on. So this is all the result of harsh words, of slander committed in previous lives.
Duba che yan la de mo kunji nuba ta ngi chu de trawa os ta nga ge sengu de nap sen no sem lokta se de patini tin nyu ajim thun te ke ta chen de nga lan do go yo sena tonda kan ya man de nga lo jono kan ya la pa la ma to ba chiran go ya mang bo yin na ya to ya mi ma to ba la de mons kunji nuba che me yin la kan ya pa ma zin de chen nuba ji ni ma mang bo ran yi ge nuba ji ni ta de su mang bo yin go yo res. 따랑이 추다 잡아오스 단 도드나 제 담배 추다만 채봐 수용고요레스다.
And so then also as a result of having harmful thoughts and covetousness in one's mind and so on, and wrong views in the mind, so then as a result of that, the experience corresponding to the cause is that one will you will not get what you want in this life. So you might think that I want to accomplish this or that, but you don't accomplish any of that. So there's a lot of things that you want, but not a lot of things that you get. And so then also it happens that even though you're not doing anything to others, they just come to you and harm you and hurt you all the time. And so then as a result of having had wrong views also, then you will separate yourself from the Dharma.
다 남주 가나서 들을 요거도 하시 빼나 nga chong sawa lan ro mundo la ya ngala ma yin ba nge khang ma la ma yin be ngala marab la ku do la ya o ma yin be ngala cha do ji do la ya o nga ta pa na do khare yin na la ya ta to so mambo ma sem na jwa mambo do as jwa pe mambo yore o nga pe che zo ko ma yin ba ji nga nu ndri ji song sam ya ro oho ma yin ba ji ngala pa chen to ja ko yu sa ro tandri ji yu sa sa 야만은 nga lanti 동기 라소be nga nubu yosare nga nu che chi nu ba chi yosare same nga chwa mangbo yore nan to mangbo yore es da sanji ki chiro nani he endu yimbe no se kan chi yo ma la ta chira lende ki ting chirang se ya ble de chna par mi yo yore es te ta ma chu ha ko gore tene tine da sosol kangi garedo ro sosol dunha garedo 소소로 점마 더번 노바 토도 마파 동하 갈때 소소 서직 답게 세도 대 가완 대와도 그러와 대 가완 대와도 뇨모바 가르던 대와도 된 된데 진짜 삼노 땅에 대 나게 동하 탐지 다 랜드 중고요 봐 근데 뒤때는 하고고요 레스 임베게 노세 제대로 말이 나랑 레게 되는 맹거요 레스
So some people, for example, they say that even if I try, I'm never successful in my business, or what they say that I haven't done anything to him. I didn't say anything, but still he comes and is so harsh to me and saying all these mean things to me. Or they say that, oh, other people are always jealous at me. Or other people just, even though I didn't do anything, they harm me. Or I'm always sick. Why is it that I'm always sick? So there's all these questions that arise in our mind where we feel that like somebody's harming us and we don't understand why. Well, for example, some people say, somebody is playing, like, casting black magic on me, cursing me, or there are these evil spirits and these demons and these obstacle makers who come to harm me. We have a lot of thoughts about these things. And so the Buddha Dharma teaches that others have done nothing to you. It's all your karma. It is your own karma ripening. So that is what we need to understand. So look at your own situation and see it. What is my difficulty? What are my main problems? Is it something that I really want, but I never get, I never accomplish it? So just find it for yourself and then see what is it connected to. Like what afflictive emotion is it connected to? And so in this way, you can understand that all suffering comes from karma, and it's not something that anybody else is really doing to you. It's really your own karma ripening.
Dewa rampa kinda yo chame hi ziji chongwa de sesen mangwa de sadr kiwa de sembi yi mata pa de saso thome kinda tuich yargong lokpa kinda yo tsub je tsago jin la so ba de yongzho gong xing yin ba de se ka xing zba de rewe ye mi ba sar ji wa o song da wang gen rewe se ya de yo wang gen rewe de ke tene kar se milu top jang tene longba chame hi ba longba pe longba tunji misa ro longba cho jakap cho pe pamjul misa jakap cho ne na sa mangbo yus longba ta ma cho yus longba tane ya sacha ya jibo me ja pe na singna da pangka da chola so ba me ba pe sa kamjong se thang ta nga so desert de so na ji ndo yo re de so wang gen de le tin ni yor do bo le je yo res pe na ma ji thom na ya longba ji le ji de na ji ma ge rek min ba ro ma gen thong chong si sa tip de so na ji yo res de wang gen de res.
And then next is the dominating result, or like dominating result. And that is related to the environment that you take birth in, the place. And so if negative karma ripens, then the place of birth will be inauspicious. It will be like a negative, harsh place. Or a country that is very poor, a very impoverished place, impoverished environment, or a country where there is a lot of diseases, a lot of sickness, or where there is a lot of fighting and wars, or for example, like a desert where it's extremely dry and there is no water and there is no trees, no plants growing. So this is like a negative, a dominating result. Or for example, one is born in a place where one is kind of often an inferior kind of a race, and other people always look down on you and things like that.
Ta nipa gewa lechones megewa che pangba de so ndung jimba tong chabar juba dimbar ma yin mun to bad ban tong da dun be chek ba che shin jambar ma chapa chun jimba to wa samba la so ba gong yang ta ba ta wa lan jo pa os ta te tara megewa che ge do so teni gewa che teni simji gin je so jo pa jimba tong wa teni chang ju le ne pa teni dimbar ma wa yin mun to ba tam ji damba tong da tun be chek che shin jambar ma wa chapa chun jimba la to wa samba la so ba gong ba yang ta par tawalan ju pa sita te tawde ni gewa cheris.
And then next are the 10 virtuous actions, which are the opposites of the 10 non-virtuous actions. These are instead of killing, you're being you save the lives of others, and then you're being generous. You give to others. You practice like a pure kind of celibate conduct, and you speak the truth, and you reconcile others. You speak what is meaningful, and you speak gently and peacefully, and your mind has few desires, and you want to give away, and your mind is filled with love, and you're holding the correct view of karma and so forth.
ati gewa chete rere kin tan ro ma go hin kan su tu ge man dang du do na ta gewa che shi ba te kawa na yong go sen so so samje ge tin yong go do as samba je ba tin ni yong go yin na samje de yo na tin gewa che te tin na chang yong go res.
So we don't have the time to go through each of these 10 virtuous actions, but so what they basically are, they all really arise from a mind of loving kindness, of loving compassion. So when that is present in your mind, then just naturally within that mind, the 10 virtuous actions are complete.
거 gewa che de pe khasi po ri do ne he re ma jam na tong da ha ko ya was.
The 10 virtuous actions are quite clear, so you will understand their meaning even if we don't actually explain them one by one, right?
Da ti gewa che te la yang tara Ngondro ro wa na yi te la yang te la teni yang khorang la taban de ta nam min jin de ta jun thong jin de ta wang kin de ti ye yo chi pa re sa.
And so in terms of the result coming from the 10 virtuous actions is the same as before. It's there are those 4 results, which is the result of separation, the full separating from suffering, the result of full maturation, the result corresponding to the cause, and the dominating result.
Da taban de sen du kare tar sina chirang je gewa che drup de pa yin na chirang dong ha le ta ba yin si dong ha le ta ban de ba le is nami jin de ba tela tini nami jin de ba tela tini top chung ringbo chimbo sin ko she ge do na nami jin de ba chirang ki da gewa che de pe chi pe chozo shuk chimbo sapa ina tini reba chimbo shuk chungchong sana reba chungchong ta chimden chosum ti gewa korang ge pakzu ga tini reba chimden chosum tuku yores ta chirang pen na gewa te pe top chungwa ji chirang sapa ina se ta gewa chi chungchong ji sapa ina ya tini hla ta mo lu tobudo hla ta mo lu there's chimbo sana tini zukham ka hla rwa zukham ka hla zukham ne ri chubdun se hla ka li toya ta to so shege yore chirang ge gewa drum de tini gewa chot drum de nginjong ge tsi sen se ya chi wa on kwan de ningbo yo mare kwan de nga jirang gi ri ngone nge tampe chu chi jogu do sana tini nga ge te nginjong ge tsi song na tini chirang ge nirang ge kompan to yore rwa tini ta te ta gewa drum de tene chena ke samsing ge tsi na pe sem konong de tene sancho sing tsi seng so yin na tene sanji ji ko ba to yo re so na ming ge de an do de na thori sum da tene ni rang da sancho sum ba de sanji ji ko pa de tene ko de to bu do as ko na ming de ge wa che na ming de top che chong ge ko ni.
And then, so the result of separation is that what are you separated from? If you practice the cause of virtue, then you separate yourself from suffering. So that's the first one. And then the next one is the result of full maturation. And then that also has to do with how strong your action is. So it is either strong or kind of medium strong, average, or it is weak as small action. So the 10 virtues also ripen depending on that. So for example, if the virtue was quite small, then one is born as a god or a human. And if it is a little bit bigger, kind of a medium strength, then one is born in the formless realm, the form realm. There's these 17 abodes of gods in the form realm, and so then there is also a virtue that when you practice it with a mind of renunciation. So for example, if you think that I understand that samsara is suffering and it has no essence, I have to practice the Dharma. So if you practice the virtue with renunciation, then it leads to a birth as Shravaka or a Pratyeka, like an Arhat. And if you practice the virtue with a mind of love or a mind of bodhicitta, you become a bodhisattva, or finally you attain the state of enlightenment. So that's the result of full maturation. So one either takes, depending on the level, the strength of one's action, one takes birth either in the higher realms, the 3 higher realms, or as an arhat, or as a bodhisattva, or one attains enlightenment.
다 jumthung jun drewa tela dambo sipa jumthung tela chirang jewa ngoma chirang tani so choya ta jimba tong jerwa tela tin tani tahar lutin dola ya tani chirang jimba tong ya so choya chanju chuchum song ya tan do dina gewa chu dubya la tani tahar lutin dola ya tani gao yu ba tani ga yin de tani gewa chu ga chumba tani yores te sipa jumthung.
And then there is the result corresponding to the cause. And so again, you will have tendencies to do things that you did in previous lives. So for example, in previous lives, if you had a tendency to protect the lives of others or to be generous, then also in this life, you will do similar actions. Again, you will have a tendency of wanting to protect the lives of others and wanting to be generous toward others and wanting to keep your morality, your ethical discipline, and so on. So you would have a general tendency, a liking toward the 10 virtuous actions, and which also entails being diligent in the practice of virtue.
So chopa da jimba tangwa la sopa la tene tene se ringpo toya tene o jono lomchu yu pa do dine sawa kari dine lamlan ro duwa lamlan kakhe lamlan sawa ya kari dine lamlan ro rwa ranking rokpa chini mangpo ra rwa chopo chomo pe mangpo top tene yungo dowa te tsama kare jine yungo yoresina chira kiwa ngoma chira giwa chu drupa la tene tene tatar lunda la tene chira sawa tsama lamlan ro yore ngana chidi sango da pena che sawa lamlan ro lobyon ya po cha tene pe zupo yan dewo yu chong le ka lamlan o ngana pe yumbo re samgo ngana pe changbo yin ngana yumbo yin samgo yores ro re china changbo tan yumbo re de chirang yungsa mangbo yore yang pango cha denju yores kare chene china yapo cha re se na o chirang gewa ngoma chirang kita gewa chu drub yar tini tele tini ta china yapo cha de gewa chu kita debri de doas te endu tene che ngaran chi ta gewa chu se ta khimbori doas dona
So then there's also the experience corresponding to the cause, which is then, for example, in a previous life, if you have protected the lives of others and been generous to them and so on, then in this life you will experience a long lifespan and you will find wealth and possessions, or your activities will be successful. We can see there are some people who just naturally, whatever they do, they're always successful, or and they always find someone to help them, or they always find a lot of friends. And that's because they have practiced the 10 virtuous actions already in previous lives. And therefore now in this life, those things kind of fall into place and just work out for them. And you might just be naturally successful and, for example, be very educated and successful in life and healthy, and your business will be successful and so on. And so when things go right in our life, then we often think that, well, it's because I'm so successful, because it's because I don't know how to do things. I'm very competent and I'm very smart. And so, yes, you might be very smart and competent, but when you look around, there's a lot of people who are much smarter than you, much more skilled than you are, and still they end up to be beggars and really poor. And why is that? It's because you have that karma of having practiced the 10 virtuous actions in a previous life. And so therefore, when you think about that, then you see that those 10 virtuous actions are really very precious.
Wangan devo yota shishin tsewa mi pe nesi jewa so kongen number dos. Da wangan devo sayate da giwa chu sa ya batin ti wangan devo latine da me litomna mulina ne pe lomba yapo jakab yangbo jakab pe tomjor yusa. Tene dambe chu yang yusa. Rwa tene jakab le shirde yusa. Rwa tene 대답을 tene benna machang yapo machang pe machama gyap chonjo sa machang yapo yara pamjor chajin yonjo tisinan tene je yores de wangin reveres.
And then there's the dominating result. So as a result of having practiced the 10 virtuous actions, you take birth in the human realm, and within the humans you take birth in a place that is very auspicious, like a good country, like a wealthy, a prosperous country, a place where the Dharma exists, a place that is peaceful, where people experience well-being. And taking birth also means taking birth in a good family, where people respect each other, where people are well-mannered, where you have sufficient wealth and so on.
Le jeyang ke chepa ne tu ta du ba da samba ta bu kun na ba tan ju su ni bo mi ba da yon ti shen kon cho sun de ze shen pa ta ma la tin ba ge de nam par mi ba shin de jo song da da ge wa yin da ma ge wa yin da de ge jeyang ke chepa de gar te ni yong yo re se na da chirang ke pe tu ta de ni je de pa yin na ge wa yin na de ni pyon chen bo ni pa yin Mageva yina ni pachimbo, tu tapana chude, and the Yores. Tenia, chupa cabla, seta, chirangi geva triple cabla, pe china semnani, teni conon pe number tapu gone, teni conon shook jimbo gone, teni geva donaya, pimpachia. Young conon pena, Mageva drum, hatyangi hedan chimbo gone drubiana, ni pachewa, the soyongo Yores.
And so then also, furthermore, there is a difference in, now there's a, like the kind of the heaviness, the weight of our virtuous and non-virtuous actions also is significant. And so, for example, when it comes to virtuous actions, if the frequency makes it very strong, so if you always engage in virtuous actions, then the benefit is greater. And likewise, if you always frequently engage in non-virtuous actions, then the fault is greater. And also, secondly, when you engage in an activity, for example, a virtuous activity, if your motivation is very strong, so if your motivation is very pure and very strong, then the benefit is greater. And likewise, if the motivation is very negative, for example, if you're extremely angry, then if it's very a strong emotion, then the fault is also greater. And so then having engaged in a negative action, if one does not regret it and if one does not confess it, then the fault is also greater.
소속의 라마 계획이니던 레네티네 디과치나야 침보 드네 소속을 빼나 제와 까딘체베드니 소속의 파다 마다 드네 쪽보 좀 하장이랑 까딘체베 멋석이네 드네 대 탐제르드니 마근 노세세나 드네 디과다 하장이 힌데 제와이스
And so also what kind of intensifies the weight of your action, whatever it is, whatever in a negative sense it's killing or cheating and so on, is also determined by toward whom, the object toward whom you practice it. So for example, if you are causing harm toward the 3 jewels, for example, then that's extremely negative karma, very heavy. Or if it is against the guru, the spiritual teacher, or if it is against somebody who is very kind to you, like your parents, who has treated you with love, or a loving friend. If you harm these individuals, then the weight of this negativity is much stronger.
다 공도는 말 레트들 렘데들 숨 유아시 근데요 먹이번데요 뭐요번데요 세다 다라 뭐요번데요 데스 뭐요번레네스 추탐제랑 남시장도 또 봤다 대한 남카 따봤다 저양미 봤다 요미미미 냠도 또 봤대 제부 남신타에 라서 줌이 김치미겠지요 다 뭐요번데요 세야테 당가서 빼나 첸들 곰잖아 something 곰들어 something the chanela서 봐 곰데 봐이나 드니 데게 제부 가래 토고 요르세나 드니 라게 라네 톱 라네 나네 드니 라네 체벌 봐봤더니 야 베나 줌이 김치 메겠다 봤더니 데이터 내리라 드니 제토고 요레스 다 something 곰데 벤데벌 드니 something 게랄 제 요레스 다
So before we mentioned that there's 3 karmas, and so now the 3rd one is called the unmoving karma, and so that is when you have in your lifetime you have practiced meditation, such as shamatha and calm abiding, so you have gained a certain level of meditative absorption, and as a result of that, it is said you take birth in the God realms. So there is the God realms, of infinite space and of infinite consciousness and of nothing whatsoever, and of without cognition, without cognition and not non-cognition.
Something goms in the Nam you gom yashene, gom the same with the Namto Rapa, Nyomo, but Namto Rapa, Kayami, Riva, Sempe, Shubde, Shawane, but not the same Shawane, the same Shawane, the rest, they gom de Patela, something, Tatelan, something gom, Segedo, take in Deva Anthony, something flat of yours. Yena, Koal Tario, my Caresina, 라네 토비르테 코알 타리오 말스 가르스는 코게 담보니 something 게 곰 요레데 돈이 따와다 산쇼심게 따와다 돈이 그소 하마오 쳔비 그는 코알 타리오 말스 얘나야 배 something like 곰팡 톱레스 당하나서 줌이 찜치 메죠 톱이레스
And so this is the result of having practiced meditation. So, for example, calm abiding, shamatha. And so through afflictive emotions have subsided. So there are no coarse afflictive emotions. The mind is in a peaceful state, a tranquil, meditative state. So we call that the meditative concentration. And as a result of that, one takes birth as such a God in the formless realms. But still, even though one takes birth there, one is not yet liberated from samsara, actually. Because previously one has just practiced a state, one has developed this state of meditative absorption, of tranquility, of stillness, but one has not fully realized emptiness and bodhicitta, and therefore one is not yet liberated from samsara, but one takes birth as a God in the formless realm.
Oh yeah, ta le gewata megewate ndevrote kandijin mingi yuresenas yor samba top chena tsendini le mi pata tonchu la nywa tas ta chirang ki gewa yena ya pe yor nimpo rowa lasa yana tini tsendala yande mi sigiris ya chirang ki pe yor nimpo la tine tini megewa hachan shuk chimbo kena tsendala ya mi sigiris tene tse samalaya kewa samalaya minsigiris ya kewa samalaya minsigiris ya ki mangi pasin ya kewa sama mangpon sana ya minsigiyores ta te ko ya le ke saktang ke tene le shok chechong le gone tene den rewe ya te tabat tene min tang ki yores tando na yungu yosare.
And so then how do these karmas then ripen? How to do these results then ripen? So it is said that depending on the strength, the weight of the object. So if it's a grave object, which you mentioned before, either the kind of the strength of the object, like a close person, or the strength of one's when this karma will ripen. So either, depending on that, it can ripen either in this life already, or it can, if it's very grave, or for example, it can ripen in the next life, or it can ripen the life after the next life, or it's uncertain. It can ripen many lifetimes later too, depending on the weight, the intensity of the act committed. Then in terms of the timing, the karma ripens earlier or later.
Lindang yin la nywa ta gewa se ta ma hu nan ju ba tang control su ji se ba tang di pa se ta top yi kya ba su nim pi se pa nywa ma ngi pa nam so ta ta nga ge gewa ta pe na nga ge ti gewa cho ju ba yin na tini ya ngo go res gewa kare to na te na lamsa ngo go ma to mangna yang so so yang ju pa chi yang do zo yo na tini yang control la so pa ta tan do de ngo ma se ba yin na gewa cha kare yin na tini se ge yo res ngo chi go res.
And then whatever of the 10 virtuous actions you have practiced, it's important that you also dedicate them immediately. because if they are not dedicated, they will become destroyed. For example, when you regret it later on, or when you get angry and so on. So all of these virtues that have not been dedicated will come to an end.
Teni dikpa se ja top gi shakpa so ji nimbo se ne nyungwa mangye pan nam so so ta gewa ta dikpa ni la se ya yo re sin do na gewa te mangmo wa yina se ndo yo re ngo san se ya yo ma re dikpa te chira shakpa se na sha jang chu mi ba che na teni dikpa ten da si yo re ka si sha jang ma se na teni dikpa te chunin da ko yo ma dikpa ma da na teni hamse ma do chira na teni dikpa kin reba teni dunga nyung yo res teni ngaran so che dikpa che chong kan re so so ke chi nyom mo bo wang ke dikpa sa so wa ina teni lam sang te nim po chi sin ta nga no so ha ko o ta ti nga la pe leng ni ba meng ri sam lam sang sha pa chi ko
So both actions, both karmas, virtues and non-virtues, will come to an end. They can be destroyed or can come to an end. So that is for virtue, they are destroyed if you don't dedicate them. But if you dedicate virtues, then they will not be destroyed. And for non-virtues, they will be destroyed or purified if you confess them. But if you do not confess them, you cannot purify them. If you do not purify them, then it's just a question of time. Sooner or later, you're going to experience suffering as a result. So therefore, whatever negativity arises with whatever negative thing you do with an afflicted mind, you should immediately apply an antidote and recognize that I made a mistake and this is negative karma, which is going to ripen. So therefore, it's important to immediately confess any kind of negativity.
The legend of Flamis Namja Tena Hibdas on the Dikwatam de Ponki Givatam de Junis joke is also. And Dortin Banya Yala Minute Taman Chayas, Lonely Shapis, Nida Tang's legend number Flamis is Takaresungu Yoresenas. Teni leg give a drabata, le make a drabatella, Lova Yomaris. Kare logo marisina, give a duna deva, toy in but logo maris. Mageva duna, Chira Dongan Jungo, but Lova mi baris. Teni the inji midgeting ake, Tambo dipa drama goach. Cast dipachi sa soina, Lunga isn't going to dipachi sa soina, Lamsang de Pasha Jansijo. Tin te chigol mato, Tinichina, pe Chozogolong, dipachung chung, driven raw. Tate ko ma paruji le mi do re san tani mi ge ma das kadu na te de di yore ni ma chi mi yong yore es pe na ngana so te loba mi be jim sin te do tin pa nye na khar song se na me de chamo cha si ge long na so shak pa ke song si ge es pe na nyama da wala so pa thang na nong si ge es le je number mi pa la me si le je number mi pa de we jang chuni lowa yu si ma re lem de lowa yu ma re
And karma is unfailing. Virtues and non-virtues karma is unfailing. And what is it unfailing in? When you create positive karma of virtue, it is unfailingly, you will experience happiness. And if you create negative karma of non-virtue, then you will experience suffering. That is unfailing. The result is unfailing. So therefore, we should try our best, first of all, not to even commit anything wrong, not to do anything wrong. But even if it happens, we should immediately confess it. You shouldn't think that, oh, this was just like a small thing. It was just a small mistake. It's so small, somewhere along the way, it will just kind of disappear, fade away. So this is not happening. It will not disappear, it will stay. And one day it will certainly ripen. And so the reason for that is mentioned in the sutra called the Sutra of the Application of Mindfulness. And there it says, it's possible for fire to turn cold and it's possible for you to catch the wind with a lasso. It's possible for the sun and the moon to fall down on the ground, but it's impossible for karma not to ripen. It is unfailing. So it is surely, once karma is created, it will surely not disappear. The result will be experienced.
Chirable, leg number mean, but some Dani Jin, Tindroche, so Karesungurusana, legend, I mean, the Hajan some Machaparis. Penas, Ningi Dani is Pe Sancho Simba, Penyani, Ningi Chimbo Yin Changs, Kazi, Bigbaji Chirang Sa Yapaina, Sa Yapa Bigbaji Yuna, Din David Tinti, means on the Jiggies, Nindor Chess on the Ningi Dani Jin, Nindor Chess on. Joban Jiti song, Jiji and such a pie and tong song. Jiji and us get done, don't subject Sancho Simba, Magiva Drum Missipari was. Kazi Magiva Jipaina, Chiran Sancho Simba Ina, Chiran Tin revenue redas. Chiran Sancho Simba Rida, Chiran Mixer Yuda, Chiran and revenue means head and Yoma, stinking young years in there.
And then it says in the Chataka Mala text that so karmic ripening is inconceivable. Even person with great compassion will fall into the lower realms, meaning that even if one is a bodhisattva with great compassion, if that bodhisattva commits a negative deed, then the bodhisattva also will take birth in the lower realms. Also, Chikden Sungden had said that even a 10th Bhumi bodhisattva can fall down into the lower realms. So actually, a bodhisattva on the 10th Bhumi will not commit any negative action. It's quite impossible. But if a bodhisattva on the 10th Bhumi would commit a negative act, a wrong act, then even they would fall into the lower realms. So therefore, what this is to say is that we can't really say that, oh, you are special, you are a bodhisattva, for you it will not ripen because you're special. So that's not true. It ripens the same for everyone. Whoever commits the negative act will experience the result.
Given they were the McGiven, they were so mean, whereas Penang landed, Hatching shifting towers, landed the Parula land way at the mean way of Kanye Penang magic, Yena, Tarape, Jakam Tum Yapo, Yuna, that tin Jakam Tumpe, Jambo Yuna, Tadom Hachan Jambo Shujina, Tescoma Jaya, Rua, Yin Long Gokotaya, Last of Asena, Mati Jambo Yuna. Doesn't trunk ham over young Sibaris, ham on turn Tarsigiris. Yena Magiva drip Yapaina, China Yinji Hako Yonanda, Yinji Hako Minanda. Kantar, China Magiva Chimboji Dubayina, David Dunga Chimbo. Magiva Chunjungi Dubayina, David Dunga Chuncho, Tinti Yungure, Mato, Paro than me, but Chavio Mares.
So karma is unfailing, and this means that whoever commits virtue and non-virtue will experience happiness and suffering correspondingly. So karma is very precise. So it's not that at some point in time it will just kind of be forgotten and disappear and go away. It doesn't go away. For example, even if you have a country, for example, in a country that has a lot of laws where it's very strict, it's very hard to evade the law, there might be a very smart person who might get away with a lot. For example, they might steal a little bit here and there, or they might deceive, cheat others a little bit. So it's possible that they will not get into trouble with the law, that they get away with it. But it's not possible for any of the 10 non-virtuous acts to not ripen. It doesn't matter whether other people know about it or not, even if they don't know about it. If the action was a powerful action, you will experience a great suffering. And if it was a smaller action, then you will experience a lesser degree of suffering. But the point is that it will not just somehow go away on its own.
Pena chỉ số số cái này chỗ bộ的chỗ mà nam là tất nhiên có tăng thấp sĩ cái đó rồi có tăng đến như nó có tăng thấp sĩ cái đó ý này làm thế là có tăng sa kháng yếu mà đấy thì nó có tăng thấp mà đấy sự ý này có tăng thấp yếu mà đấy.
So for example, maybe if you are smart, maybe you can deceive, you can kind of cheat your friends or your family members a little bit, and they never find out. But if you're a person like that, but with karma you can't do that. You can't cheat karma. No one can do that.
대인도 다 렌데 하장의 협진 차와 인도 근데 나랑 쪽에나 렌데 하장 협진 차보고는 쏜거 그래스 배는 나랑서 다 딕반도 충충 리산에 되는 나랑서 때 도낭 맞아ವೆ 쳔네 근데 딕반도야 근데 지야요 말레스 배니 하침보레스 딕바 충충 망보사 타망이 손은 펜시그레스 배나 나랑서 메다 너가 매 충충 지게 빼싹 풍부 라자에 쓱 투고 요레스 근데 너 나노는 된 수고도 없어요 나랑 좀빼 개와 충충이 다때서 개와 충충 대다 빼 기라 기침보리 만도산에 맞저외치네 근데 지야 요말 개와 충충이나 죽고르다 셈바나는 개와 셈 끼직 맞지 와이네 때 닦고 자고레스 핀셈데 때서 공도 땅고레스 대인도 나랑 빼 던지지 개와 망보 던지지 장 망보 산 던지 소나고 초세야 돼 자침보 타마더니 저 돈디 차기 요레스 빼나 나랑 초게 특과 저니 특과로 팅디고 요나 샤블라 누 침보지 야가는 니마지 특과의 장사로도 누데 강도도 와서 누 침보도 대나기세는 가게 개와 충충이 지사안데나 근데 남기가 소나페 자침보 통도 와서 대인도 개와 충충이 사 네바 충충이 니빠도 빵고레스 개와 충충라 니비스야 요 말에 딕바 충충라 니비스야 요 말에 송거다 니 빠랑 지고레스 침보도 인데
So
사만도 뭐지 나로라 되니 다 동로 충충 진대 송아이나 다때 독 충충리도 개쭈 말이사 사마사이야나 그 독충종이나 니발레 미용거로 왔어 소주로 왔어 양은 나으로 왔어 대나기 딕바세야 돼 대나기레스 딕바 충종은 니야요 말이마도 레야비 또니 손은 팽그레스
So karma is because karma is a very very precise, and therefore it's also important to really explain it very precisely, and also to keep to it very precisely. So which means that no, you shouldn't think that this is just a small thing. It's not a big. It's not really something. A very strong negative action. It's just like a small little thing, and so basically we just don't really pay much attention to that because it's so small. So don't do that because that could be very dangerous. Because as we keep accumulating many of these small negative actions, eventually they will all make us fall into the 3 lower realms. It's just like you have a little spark of fire. It can burn away a whole mountain of grass. So this is explained in the Sutra of the Foolish and the Wise. And the same goes for the virtuous actions. And you shouldn't think that, oh, this is so insignificant, it's so small, there's no point in doing that. You should still do it. Even if it's very small, you should do it. Even if it's just one moment of a positive thought or a wish to benefit others, help others, you hold on to that thought and develop that thought. And in this way, you accumulate a virtue, so it becomes a lot, becomes a great accumulation, an accumulation of merit. And so this is what we call this accumulation. There's many small instances coming together to make a great accumulation. For example, if you keep dropping a tiny little drop of water in a vessel, then eventually, sooner or later, the vessel will become full if you just consistently keep filling it with little drops. And so in a similar way, if you keep accumulating small virtuous actions, one day they become a tremendous amount of merit. So therefore, practice even the smallest virtue and abandon even the smallest non-virtue. So don't kind of look down, kind of neglect the importance of small activities, thinking that this is just a small virtuous action, not so important, or this is just like a very insignificant small negative act. It doesn't matter. So don't think in this way, but practice precisely virtue, all the small virtues, and give up all the negative actions. And then, of course, we have to do that with the stronger, the bigger actions. Now, for example, if you're eating food and you're mixing just a little bit of poison with it, then you wouldn't say that, oh, it's just a little bit, it's no problem. Because if you eat just a little bit of poison, it will still kill you or it will make you really sick. So with negative actions, it's just like that. So refrain from it altogether, because if not, it is this accumulation of many negative actions that will plunge us into the three lower realms.
다 중조는 가래성 그러잖아. 다 동하 쳔 동하 충충 더 이메데바 다 샘는 진낭 안자. 단 도르드는 아근 도바 마토바. 문두버 토도 바바 대 탐지 딕바 주발레 중화레스.
In the Bodhicharya Avatara, it says any slight feeling of discomfort, mental unhappiness, fear, anxiety, not getting what you want, and so on. All of that is the result of negative actions.
양 중조는 이라 삼바 게세 바 강다 강던 로제 바 대다 테네 수남 된데베 용디 응원지 응추 저 딕바시라 덴두장 강다 강던 로제 대다 딕바테 동한촌 동한촌지 남바는 좀소 단 도르드나 기와 드비야 바테긴 데베 데게테니 치랑 가와 소나야 드니 레카야 본도야 셈바치 보용야 돈 탐지 갱미 반적 탑이야. 다 노르드나 근데 연구 요레스 대 참아 given 데베레스. 지나 딕바 드럽잖아. 근데 지나 누구난다 만두난다 가와로 가와 되나 동안 하죠. 대화 탐지 좀 동안 탐지 도구 요레스.
And then also in the Bodhicharya Avatara, it says that if you practice virtue, the result will ripen wherever you go. Wherever you go, your actions will become successful, your mind will be happy, and you will accomplish everything you desire without obstacles. And if you practice non-virtue, then whether you want it or not, wherever you are, you will always experience suffering in your mind and in your activities.
Dewa Devegela music, Kupani Persas, Japolo Dambandole, Tujana, the Japon Dojan, Nomjunza, and Inchi Dimage, Chevet and Kandakando, alleged to Magi, the Jisandang, he sampota Gomo song. Da Japolo Dambandona, and Caresondo Sena. Japolas, Chirang, Jeva Chera Kawando Inas, Jevan Dota, Jeva Suma, Chirang Kawando Inaya. Chirang Jis, Tara Chirang, you de top nga tang tang jono ro to siki yong ma da chiran chala ta chiran chala kare yong yore se na le kare chiran le ge wa sa yong da le me ge wa sa da ta chiran ge wa sa ma sam de ji chiran ge sin rang yong ri ma to yima kaya chiran chala yong ma res le ne tma yin de tma ji sin da pe nga su zubo ka sa no zubo tma ri chal do pe ti na gi chiran ge wa sa ma number shiba de chatla tini chirang ti le de chala yung res de ma to yimba china yung ma res ta
In the Sutra of Advice to a King, it said that, King, wherever you go, in this life or in all your future lives, what will go with you is not your power and your might and your wealth and your friends, your companions. None of them will follow you. But what will follow you, what will accompany you, is the karma you have accumulated, whether it is virtues or non-virtues. This is what will follow you, just like the shadow of your own body. Now, the shadow of your body follows you wherever your body goes. That's where the shadow is right there. And similarly, wherever the consciousness goes beyond this life, karma will follow that your consciousness wherever you go. Nothing else will follow.
Ngarangi chit Magiva Drubayinanda, Sosoke Pama chit Magiva Drumnanda, Sosoke Nama, Trobo, Sukichit Chiranga Magiva Drubayinanda, Dona Magiva Drubyabate, Drupapo, Rani, Gis and Rangurimato, Chirango, Magimba Chit Chiranga Magiva Drumdoa, Tenim didn't Drever Donati Jina Yunguridas and Ten Yungo Mares. Magiva Drupapo Korana Yunguris. Dipa Suduna, Dipa Drupapo. Bahi kona la nywa yins mato chira phag chi dikwa drona phal donghan jong ya ma ge chi dikwa dpa yina tin dewa mala thom ya tin mare si chira ge sui chi de chira dongha mage ba drna nda dona dewa dongha de chira rang la yong gres.
And so the whatever negative act you commit in this life, and for whichever purpose, you will experience the result. So whether you practice it for your own purpose, or you practice it for your parents, or you do it for your friends, in brief, if you engage in negative action, you will experience the result. So the one who has committed it will experience the result, and not the person for whom you have done it. They will not experience it. So it's not like, it's okay, you did it for somebody else. You will still experience it. The other one will not experience it. Only the one who did it will be the one experiencing it. So if you did something wrong for your father, then it's not like the father will have to experience it. You will experience it. Or if you did something for your mother, then it will not be transferred to your mother. You will still experience it. So for whoever you engage in negative action, it's always the one who commits it that will experience the result.
Magiva Drutsan is on the Paro the Lan and me do yang Kaya Yomares, Chirang Shakpa Mazevena, then Magiva de Tano, Cher and Ruguramato, Mi Parchaya Yomares.
And so likewise, when you engage in virtuous and non-virtuous action, whatever you commit, it will never be lost. It will never just disappear. unless you purify it through confession, but it will not just go away on its own.
다 나서 로도 남기 던데 지더니 고메 쳔냐미 이제더니 모조 산초 랍자나나 가레송 요레세나 담줄린도 돈데 모모 도서 먹게봐 먹게 빵 게벌레는 배빠지 고송 탐식 돈바송 송다 나게 남주 냠스 린 이더니 티체여데 삼노타는 저기도와 다 나라게 담주 줄려야고 톰도와 다 대기 땡니 드니 나게 녀모 바다 먹게봐 탐지 파빵 게벌레를 나게 거네 배서 지적 다른 담겨줄 돈요 봐 맞지 돈다 대봐 Nem 저도글 저 개와 저 개와 데베 저 개와 저 동하 저 먹게와 저 빵고상 드니 좀파르 텔 삼론 땅 드리치네 드니 냠닌 치고레스 다대 탐지 드니 나게 게데게 따라 따라 공대히 좀데게 따도서지 먹게와 장다 도서 빼 망보도와 도서 십차로 오지 신나야 볼 가슴 마시는 첫두 용화이나 첫 돈다도 두 용화이나 먹게와테 가르 따라가는 자세라는 소도만 송요와 동할 말 다된 도는 종 단도 두나 다른 알 따라 대와 동하 간디 동하 최종 간디지 요나 대 탐지 제왕호마 나랑 약보 연고 삼버더니 대 삼로 땅에 뒤뜨는 사이에 랜드 코나 그때니 용대 바레스 단도든 단지 뇽모 버터니 용레스 동하 말이 다된 도는 종 아야 보고 나지 보고 사네 그와 다대 독소 인보 가레르스나 대와 탐지 저 가레르스나 당하게 남주 가레 냠린시 라린 또 그렇지 첫 돈다 도도세나 조파산지 인핀세는 총송 자세란 디층이는 되려다 인핀그센 다 자침복 개와 드마신 이 심지 탐질에 야보리고 삼바 던드그 삼노다 핀생그 삼노 땅네 되는 나기 냠린 제대바 예나 디삼바테케 다 인핀그센 되게 타톡치란 산지지 공판 토보요르라 내갑치란 제와 체라만 보고 데베지 상마드는 용거요레스 대리 소속 셈데 베 삼바zam보지 제다 본다 기침부 대레스 셈zam보 세고야 하고 생님바 빵고 하고 아이나 다치랑 김제 시리요
So
그랑페 남주
in
교 다치랑티 김제게 김제네가 생고더니 치라 셈삼바zam보 임파시에 대 빨랑치랑 마제베이나 치랑페 카퉁 게비오 게와 같이 망보 두고 유 치랑 같이 롭병 제데베이나 돈다 치랑 nenga ngamate ha maore nenga ngamate ha mao chadi chirange di devi jada donga ge jetini palang mahi chadi tini shida chirang chu pi ma thobares de nenga de ha kone de tini ngage semsam tantan jowa tang doas de semsam tantan de ta zo ngage namani go zamne na jobu jomun go zane semsam ba zambo sije ta te nenga na ke nenga res
So in the sadhana, then in the preliminary sadhana, we are on page 20. So then you recite the corresponding verse to that. So to make this life of freedom and connection meaningful, I shall abstain from all misdeeds resulting from a mind afflicted by the three poisons. I shall diligently act my vows and my samayas of the three doors. And so then you reflect on the meaning of what you have just mentioned when you read these lines. And so you think that now I have found a precious human body and I must make good use of it. I must abandon all negative emotions and non-virtuous actions. And I must practice virtue as well as I can. I must make this human life meaningful. By practicing the cause of happiness, which is virtue, and by abandoning the cause of suffering, which is non-virtue. So in this way, reflecting in this way, think that I must engage in practice continuously. And so just before we have mentioned so many different kinds of negative, non-virtuous actions and virtuous actions and so on. if you know them all, then that's fine. But even if not, you can just stick to that one verse in the 37 Bodhisattva practices, where it says, all suffering without exception comes from wishing for one's own happiness. So this is really where it comes down to. Whatever happiness or suffering you experience, and to whichever degree you're experiencing it, it all comes from the karma accumulated in previous lives. All suffering comes from this wish from my own happiness. I want to be happy. It comes from self-grasping and the afflictive emotions. So it is only because I want that for myself. So the opposite of that is the cause of happiness. So the cause of happiness is to wish for the happiness of others. So also in that same verse, it says, the perfect Buddhas arise from the altruistic mind. So actually everything is contained within these two sentences, these two lines. If you just have a wish to help others, benefit others, a vast altruistic mind, and even if you don't know all of these virtuous actions, if you just want every sentient being to be well and happy, if you have this altruistic mind, then that will become the cause of ultimately attaining enlightenment. And temporarily in our lifetimes, it will become the cause of all happiness. So therefore, it's important to just sustain such a good state of mind, a positive state of mind, and abandon all negativity in this life, and do what should be done and give up what should be given up. Practice virtue as well as you can. So if even if you do all of that, if you neglect this altruistic mind, and if you only focus on studying and learning different things in the Dharma and so on, then you still have not really understood the essence, the vital point, the essential point of Dharma practice. And because the altruistic mind is the actual cause of all happiness. And if you don't understand this point, then you don't really know what to do and what not to do. And then the Dharma itself hasn't really benefited you so much. So that is the essential point that you should definitely understand. Because if you understand this essential point, then you will be able to really transform your mind. And you start doing that by cultivating this altruistic mind toward your family members and your friends and those around you and so forth. So that's really the essential, the crucial point.
Oh yeah, ta to go on so lemde ko shun repa yin. Tene ta tutsu senson do roa. Yena yan ta towa kaki ji yusa de te to go nge ling jagi. Tena so so petes kable kala yan chena so min so sana tene ronan digeri. Tene towa tingi to so tes go gores. Ling go gores.
So then we start the teachings here today about karma, because the time has come, but I'm going to answer just a few questions. If you can't stay on any longer, if it's so difficult, then it's fine. You can just leave and rest. And those who would like to listen to the answers can stay.
Gongar mimpa chins. Kanta tutsu kin tango melo tesen toa ngan sim ta den do.
Please forgive me with a little bit over time, but what can we do?
Oh yeah, toa karido. Questions?
Okay, so
Questions?
Yeah, there are some questions. So I will post it in the chat box, Ina, so that you can actually refer to it. All right. So the first question is, how do we teach our children, especially in today's pandemic times, that this place and the whole samsara are nothing but suffering, and at the same time not ruin their positivity, wish, and zest for life?
Tingsan gitul tinga soneam yoraba natsati tini sosu ki pugula tanata ta pena tana kanga yupe kapla tini ta khorba do nargi rangshin re tini deva yo mares lop ko yo ra so so ki pogola yina yang tini tengsan ki lo lakpar tu kale yo ra ba neyam tigi tini ti to na gangyang da boshena ti neyam tikala tikana tini koranso pe sem tiki sama meva so yo ra ba ti tini koranso ta mitse yapo cha go sa re dumba yo ra ba tini chishna ti yang torndo kore tini tela chitang tengsan ki tula pugola tini nginchong kola kan nginchong senata ton nargi rangshin khanres lop go yore
pugola pe khoa de donga jarang giri dun khidate malan ndigires kare la goresena pugola semba zambu gores chupa yapo gores yena no se chiayo mares te yapo la gores ro chupa yapo la tene pena conjosum to zo yuntin te chirang ha ko na lamna tene yapo yores ma to pe dongari de na pu hira ha ko ma te lab goya te anko te ne che de lebyo mares tene ya lemde te chi lamna de pena yena no se chena chirang na de nyong gri das mo yimba la 강이 되는 뭐 임발 강이 동하요를 맞기 배차거리 되니 치랑라 맞기 배차바나기 얘나야 맞기 배차거리 되니 얘는 말합지야요 말이죠 다 랜드 거다 되니 건조스는 대파도 때 슬람네 야보리마도 동하 땅 민용도 시라라고 하면도 아니요 중요나
So you don't really have to tell your child so much about the suffering of samsara and renunciation because they're just too young for that. And what's important for them is that they have a good heart and that they develop a good conduct that doesn't harm others and is respectful of others and so on. Of course, you can also tell them about the qualities of the three jewels and karma and so on, that's fine. But then if you just talk about suffering, then that's just too much for them because they're too young for that. They won't be able to understand if you tell them about the suffering of samsara because they're not at that level of understanding yet. Of course, you can tell them about karma. You can say that if you are mean to others, if you hurt others, then it makes them suffer. Just like you don't like it when other people hurt you, you also suffer. So therefore you have to be nice to others. So you can tell them that, so speak about karma and the three jewels, but there's no point at this stage in life that you tell them so much about renunciation and the suffering of samsara.
근데 삼파도 제와 히랍도 짜치 모리 저 솔로 그래서
and you have to teach them that love, compassion, wisdom are very important qualities. So these things you should teach them.
All right, and the next question. I have received the Idam empowerment. Is it right if I focus on finishing Ngondro first before jumping into the practicing of the Idam deity?
Teniko Idam Gubang Lagabang Shunyong Shins, Yena and Tambo La Unan Yamlamazin Munla, Tene Mundo Tambo Tana Yagareve.
Chetan kon rotan sena tambo ngondro chi tene ngondro chan de tene yedan to so tikyo ro was rotan sena yena ye chiran tambo yedan kwang hyu yana nenga yo mare ngondro yin chi tene yedan yang de zu sam no tan na yang ya po res zo ta tambo chiran yedan kwang hyu da ma yu de te chira chepa mendo ngondro ma chi ngoni yena tambo ngondro chira yedang kwang hyu na ngondro te nyamisia te hachang ki chimbo dinane la parta ngondro nani treng lemde te lai jumde te ha kwa ta hachang ki chimbo pe na nga ge yedang ka la kande chi nyamne chi yu na chira le jumde te yin chi mi chi ha ko ta le jumde ha ma o sana 빼는가게 예담 빼 라 작보도 고면 빼 휴위징아서 누파 파워 휴위지 요상도 그래서 때서 과 논도 또 지랑 짐대 야포지 하고서이나 근데 빼 지랑 예담 라 간데 냠니 지나 빼 야포 연구여레스 데 짐대 하 마오나 지랑 라 작보 간데지 곰데나 다랑 가서 티데 여러와 아 불은데 둥데들 망보 요래라 망보 라나야 야분 둥데 카히 요래라 둥데 카히 가르치는 용어 요래세나 빼나 코란스 담보 야당 라트서 사고 공 그러와 얘나 레줌데다 삼파데 닝지도 좀 마고마체 야당 라고 드니 코란스 니파 침보차 드니 삼파데 닝지 미자 드니 레게 릴랑소 말레스 저 망보에 카히 요래더라 우나노라 데인데 담보 삼바당 드니티 렘데도 소 니파 하고 그런 거를 뭐지 가르쳐 오는세나 빼나 치라 따완 통포 간데 얘네야 레줌데 인기미지 집중 차와대 냠닌 지고레스 렘데데 아부 야부 하고나 드니 또니 또야 레 라오 차고요레스 데인데 따라 문도나게 렘데데 니파 드니 하고 데 야부 히 드니 지랑 예단 라 냠니 챤데 야부 차고
So the way it is normally done is that you would first complete the Ngondro, and then you would practice the Yidam and receive the instructions. But still, it's fine to receive an empowerment even before that, and still continue to do the Ngondro. You can still think about a Yidam deity and receive an empowerment, but there is a big difference in terms of the power of deity yoga practice, depending on whether or not you have completed the Ngondro. So therefore, the main focus really should be first the completion of the Ngondro before you really embark on the serious Yidam practice. And the Ngondro is really extremely important. And of the Ngondro, especially what we mentioned today, karma, understanding karma is most important. And that is important even also when you later practice a Yidam deity. You follow karma. To understand karma really well is extremely important for the Yidam deity practice. Because otherwise, often people think that, I'm practicing, they don't really think about karma, but they think I'm practicing this really wrathful deity because it's so powerful. But in this way, we actually make a little mistake. And because the deity should be practiced on the basis of understanding karma first. For example, in Tibet, there are quite a few evil spirits, and they appear, actually, many of them appear because in a previous life, they were people who practiced the Yidam deity, but they didn't pay much attention to karma, and they didn't cultivate love and compassion. But they practiced that deity, so they became quite powerful. But because they lacked love and compassion, they took birth as this evil spirit. Now, there's quite a few of them in Tibet. And so that's why it's really important to understand karma and to therefore also cultivate love. Guru Rinpoche had said that no matter how high your view may be, your conduct, your understanding of karma has to be extremely fine, has to be very precise. So if you understand karma really well, it will become easier for you to realize emptiness. And so therefore, it's surely very important to practice the preliminaries and especially to understand karma, because if you understand that really well, then you later when you practice the Yidam deity, that practice will also turn out well.
The next question, should we only have one Yidam deity for meditation?
Tini Yidam chikchipo kona yagarebe.
대체는 담적으로 예담 망보 고는 되게 찍찍보 고는 되게 그때 가서 불러야 된데 가시게 양 예담지 신의 냠네 신의 여래 야 망보 냠네 신의 여래 또 다소소지 대파 다나 유 tene simkin hinge yo na tene chira la mangbo nyamne chena ndigere che nyamne chena ndigere te chira kare gana chena chore.
So that's up to you. You can practice many deities, several, or you can practice one. Also in Tibet, there are some who just practice a single deity, but some other is that you have a pure view, devotion and compassion for sentient beings. And as long as you have that, it's up to you whether you practice one or more deities.
Should we do Idam deity practice in every meditation session?
Tini tun chamala gomgi tun chamala Idam gomgorwes.
다 나서 쪼반 이게 성공 가르성고 되나 통지 나나야 창마 지고 창마스 나디 찹창로고 해송다 나디디 가르지나 치랑게 두추링 보이나다 통통이난다 오 치랑게 따라 담보 산초지 셈지야 랑게 류데페 쳐조걸로 예담 라임바 로 근데 치랑 개와 가르 줍나데 유담 라비 초로와스 아 tene lama namjo lamal tepa goya semje nelo toni tawa goya tunje la ya thamje chawal go song yorete thamna tini yapores.
Chitin Sumgun had said, actually within a single session, the fivefold path of Mahamudra should be complete. It doesn't matter how long the session is, it can be longer or shorter, but you always start with cultivating bodhicitta first, and then you visualize yourself as the Yidam deity. And it's okay to practice, it's okay to visualize yourself as the Yidam deity, no matter what practice you do, whatever virtue you practice. So then you come to the Guru devotion. In every session, you practice devotion to the Guru. And for Mahamudra, you look at the nature of the mind, you meditate in a state of emptiness. So actually, all the levels of the path are complete within a single session.
Tene yang chiran pena ngage te necheji yorwa ngara nyamning ge necheji ta ngara pen samba de hingi gom de ni na tene tela samata na ndige yore kap tedi an tela samata na samba hingi khanwa gom de na ndige yores.
And then also it depends on your level of practice. So if you are practicing love and compassion mainly, then in your meditation session, you can just make that your main focus too. Or for example, if
tene anga to le tambo ba ina tene tapa la goma na chungu yo mari tapa samba dingi gom de na tene yapo cha de yore sa.
And so then if you practice a deity, then you can just make that your main focus. So it also depends on like what's the focus of your practice. That's what you focus on in that session. Of course, in general, if your view of your realization is high, then of course you always practice the deity. But then for beginning practitioners, it's fine if we don't always meditate on the deity. Then it's good for us, it's good to focus on cultivating love and compassion.
Will you please teach us on the way to do the breathing technique?
Today is also on the way. The particular long control the inside matter. Long good in the inside. It is a loro nang. La.
enough time?
Do we have time for this?
Okay, it's 10:24 in Singapore. So Rinpoche, if you want to stop at 10:30, we only have 5 minutes. Or can we skip this question? We ask this question next week and we move to the next question.
When you have extra time, then this answer lah.
Okay, sure. All right. So we will go to the next question. For guru supplication, I have no root guru. So who can I call upon to my mind?
Ini lama sawatap gogo yoris. Ini ngala chabe lama mes. Ini tak kare dengo betul tikat lah.
Oh, chira tabla lama mina digiri. Chira sanje la so otab den digiri. Sanje lama yin samne.
So that's okay if you don't have a root guru. You can also supplicate to the Buddha. You can think that the Buddha is my root guru, my guru.
Can we have several root gurus?
Ini chabe lama mambo yona digiri be.
Digiri.
It's fine.
Okay, so my practice room is quite small. May I do half prostration instead of full prostration?
Ini ngarang kamba pe chung ri. Ini chak chadu. Ini chak seke chipo chana chogore be. Yana chak yang chagore.
Sam bungi rodi ta sa pe zubo deo ina chira lo chung ina zubo deo ina sa changpa char gore. Right? Kuni o chimbo yin zubo deo mina tini sa sekan sanan digiri tang khangpa tes chira nyatche jar chira ni lo yo na ti sa si lo yo re samdo.
So when you do the Ngondro, the 400,000 accumulations of Ngondro and the prostrations, so you should do, if you are physically able, if you're well and young, then you should do the full prostration. If you're a little bit older or physically not so well, then it's okay to do half prostration. But even if your room is small, if you have enough room to lie down and sleep, so then that means you also have, because you're stretching when you're lying down, right? So then you should also have enough room to do a full prostration.
How often should we do POA practice?
Powa din yamlen khatse chi gores.
Tapan nyamni chena yapo re chira mikpa tso yapo hina tene tapan nyamni chena ndigi re. Hare sena
You can
janggo yorwa. Pwa de jang de zo ndo chu kabla nga dewa chena hi jewa kita lam je zo yorwa. Tene chen de pe nga dan jing nang yorwa. Tidi drin to go dan do de ti mikpa te ha ko to go. Ti mikpa te tene taha yapo yo na tidi ti drin to go yore. Tene tata chira nyamni chira mina tene tidi drin to go yo man ten du tene tabar chira semna na te po mikpa te yo na ha ko yo na tidi te yapo yore sa.
So you should always practice a poem, especially always have the visualization in your mind, because now when we are alive, we are training our mind. We're preparing ourselves for death. So we are kind of making our way, our road ready to take birth in Dewa Chen. And because at the time of death, there's a lot of fear, and you must be able to remember it at that time, where there's a lot of intense emotion. And so therefore, it's good to familiarize yourself with the visualization, to know it really well, because if you know it really well, then you will definitely be able to remember it when you die. But if you don't really make it a habit now, then at the time of death, it will be difficult to remember it. So therefore, it would be good to actually always kind of keep the visualization of it in your mind.
I did Ngondro from other sanghas and had a few empowerments. But now I don't know if my Ngondro is sufficient to engage in a generation stage, home retreat. And also I'm practicing Gachen Rinpoche's Ngondro. Is there a way to know if it is already sufficient and how?
Tene di Ngondro shamba chi kupa shamba na la Ngondro chi sha yore. Tene di wang mambu shu yore. Ina tanda ngaso kupa shamba la da ngaso kupa la lev yore. Tene nguma di ko chu go tuwe yana di Ngondro yang ge chi go re. Tene tanda garam bache ki Ngondro di so what is it about garam purchase Ngondro? Is it okay to do it or? Sure.
Yeah, and so this person wrote, yeah, and I'm practicing Garchen Rinpoche's Ngondro right now. So is there a way to know if it is already sufficient and how?
Sufficient? What do you mean? Like,
I guess this person's meaning is that he is practicing Garchen Rinpoche's Ngondro. Is it good enough instead of the Ngondro that he has done previously with other Sangha group? I hope my interpretation is correct. Yeah.
Dirati kaisina kungundu shemba shatsa rava kipa shemba nana ina yang tanda garam pachegi ngundu chena khala gena tin tiki tues ti chipu kan khudor tu bare samge yosare marave mishi ina garam pachegi ngundu sena ti khocho tues lagusare
te chira Ngondro lama juba yimba ni yana pe ya pores tene chira yanjo tara sancho lamza nyamni chena yan digados zo ndo dina Ngondro kawai na lama juba kare na tsama sanji ni ju ju janjang rewa ta lama ju ta te samanda manda ba yore dripthap jeba de diba te samanda ba yore zo tonda Ngondro ke ha ko go chi yo te nenga chiba chichang re sama chiba chichang re te tene chira Ngondro 다치 차도 양조치 야난 되기도 내가 문도 좀 나게 샘게 때는 뇨모바 같이 다한도 로 세 뇨모바 싫어 다 문도는 다는 홍로 찍마고 니 요거레스 생기 뇨모바 다 되오나 다 문로 마야나 되는 되기도 대 체디 지랑 생게 때는 뇨모바 다마다 되는 요
So it's excellent that you did a Ngondro in a different lineage, and it's still okay also for you to practice Garchen Rinpoche's Ngondro, there is excellent path to enlightenment, because ultimately the lineage really goes of all those lamas and different traditions goes back to the Buddha. Ultimately, even though maybe in the sadhana there's different names of gurus mentioned and some sadhanas are longer, some are shorter. But what's most important is when you practice the Ngondro is that you understand the essential point of the Ngondro. And the essential point is always the same. So if you have already completed a Ngondro, and if you want to do another one, that's fine. Basically, you should see for yourself in terms of how many of my afflictive emotions have I been able to purify. So if you find that actually I have not really purified them so much, still have quite a few afflictive emotions, then it's good to do the Ngondro again. But if you find that I don't really have a lot of afflictions, they're mostly purified, then it's okay not to do the Ngondro again. So basically how to determine it is by looking at how many afflictive emotions there still are in the mind.
Okay. Rinpoche, we have more than 10 questions left. Shall we answer one more question?
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, the last question for today. Since our lifespans are somehow fixed, meaning that we cannot extend it, why do we still do long life practice?
So thing so legi takche tawarawa so chiringbo kache degiri ine takche legi takche tayuna thing so cheto nyamran karejuna chegori
te to at pe ya bodo ro mo chama phaje di to ba the sig te chi der ngaran so munji le chaji jin se nin do as munji le se ya te Muji pen loja top goyachi lay you na call sese de loja ina, the nip pen a long ngapture to some chill corner parchin or chon at the ya. And then do ya tongue yorwa. Oh, Tendina, the name out of Cedrupsia ta and Don Pandoya, Tendesena, Tinity Pachet do to wear. The loja tatan wrote to wear. Kazi Chira, that Tendi Shaptin and Domazena, Jason Chira Lord took you dinner and they cigarettes. Chira Lord Jato ya say, Yuna. Tachira Lord Jato ya say, Yuna, the nature and Cedrup Secho Katebo Katse Chedina. Chohana Lord Jato in Dogres, Pena, Sanjay, the Sancho Sabang, give a Tambanam Tan, take up in Singulis. Then it that the little Jugor, Chigors, thing, Nipat the Chigor, Nipat the Jugores. Flapper the Soso Lama, the sort of Chigor, Courage and Lama Chimbo, Pranto Young, Topan Tombo Italy. Then it does a Kranzo said the Rimbo, Giak, Nipa Yuri is secure. Garrison Kranzo led daughter was. Let her was. Then it low market and the record chamber Jayana, then it don't do that until yours. Do that until you know, then you cigarettes, Casimbo, you cigarettes, and then them do this. Matutang, and on the Chayana, Manda Gina, or lay Loja Deana, then it chiran Casimbo Casin, the inn and Rugumari.
Cardomare,
Jared, and wrote to Gumari.
Hello. So that's an excellent question, and probably a lot of people are wondering about that. So there is the previous karma, and so if the karma is that, for example, a person has a karma to live for 100 years, and then at the age of 50 or 60 or so, he encounters some obstacle, and that might lead to his death. So then that's the condition. And so then if we practice a long life practice for that person, then this temporary obstacle can be turned away. And then that person can live up to 100 years. But then if we wouldn't do the long life practice, then that person might actually die at that age, like 67 or so years, and not reach the age of 100. And so, if the person has the karma for reaching 100, then if it's their karma, then they will, but it will not go then beyond that. And so, also with regard to like practicing long life practices, especially for great beings like our guru and so on. So like a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, these are all beings who have high realization and who actually have already purified all their karma. They have kind of eliminated all karma. So then when we practice long life prayers for them and we supplicate them, then that could extend their enlightened activities for the disciples' benefit. And that it's possible that even though they are beyond karma, that they still stay a little bit longer. So that is due to also our own karma and the interdependence of things. But in general, so if the lifespan is 100 years and then one reaches 100 years, then one will not go like more and more beyond that, like 101, 102 and so on.
When much low much leg semina, chirampe don't pamamboton, pe checho mambo chena, or co set low sunchurity, yena checho mambo chena, co long up your top say chicken yomaris.
So, but then if a person's like lifespan is like say it's 30, and then even if that's like the determined lifespan, and then you like without the condition, right, just the karma, and you do a lot of practices and recitations to extend their life, then he will still not reach like 50 years or so. Then he will still die at 30.
다 돼야 다 되라 이 띵띵 될 핑크 요래 parchese요
Mhm,
so ina
mhm.
ta sechon don teni pe wang mambo kyo teni rumro mambo chena te ti parchel do to yo teni
So what these practices are really beneficial for is to remove these temporary obstacles. So for that, it's very helpful to practice like long life practices and to receive empowerments and so on.
ta pe na nyamlin thompo yo na ro nyamlin thompo yo de pa ina teni to chola nga cho ta sechon don so ran de yu ro ji do teni re course tim yo phu teni se na te te se long yu thup si gi kare se na lama nyamlin thompo ina khran cho le chin che ga rawang thop se ji yo ta jewa chok je ya gawa lu ling go yo mi ro ga du che khran cho lo rawang yo res rawang kare chen ne sen khran cho nyamni ko ta was ta to cho le tini nga so wa ta na tini te se long pe che reng bo yu ya le pin to yo res ya ko le ge tini lo pe na tukyo se to ya ina tini ting yo pe che cho to na ta la ma ti nyamni chen bo yo na tini te se lo pa den che ja che to ro ta si ge res te ya te yo si ge yo sa res ya si ge yo sa res ya
So if the Lama, for example, has really a high realization, then it's definitely of great benefit to supplicate him to stay for long, to offer in a long life ceremony. And then it's really possible that he will stay longer. Because such a Lama of high realization has attained the freedom of birth and death. So it's his choice when he will die and where in which body he will take birth again and so on. But for our sake, if we supplicate him, then it will definitely be of benefit to extend his life. So for example, if this Lama would have a lifespan of, let's say, 60, and then we make a long life ceremony, and this Lama is someone who has high realization, then it's probably very possible for him to stay like 70, 80 years or so.
oh yeah that the is tini mo la dedication
Okay, so we will recite in English.
oh dupa short da dan konde tamji just only that
By the virtuous accumulations of the three times of myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by this root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment.
Om mani be me hon ru 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 mani be me hon ru Jan jo zem jo rimbo man jin ba nan jin 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 ba nyan ba mi ba kon ne kon Thank you very much, everybody. Chashidele.
Om Benza Sato Samaya Manupalaya Benza Sato Tinopa Tishari no Me Bawa Soto Kayo Me Bawa Soto Chayo Me Bawa Anarato Me Bawa Sarva Siddhe Me Parayesa Sarva Karma Susa Me Siddham Shiyam Kuru Aha Ho Bangare Sarvata Gata Beza Mame Beza Beza Bhava Ma Samaya Sa